Hello everyone, this is a tutorial for some fall pumpkin coasters. Today we're going to be looking at the kit and what's in it, and then how to make this pumpkin shape. Today I'm going to be working with the pumpkins with the fall sayings on them. This will work. This is the same thing you'll be doing if you have the jack-o'-lantern faces. It's the exact same shape, exact same way of making the pumpkins. It's just a different front. So let's look at what's in your kit. In your kit, you will have 4 pumpkin fronts, either with, like these, the false sayings, or with the jack-o'-lantern faces. And then you'll have 4 pumpkin backs, which are just going to have the pumpkin lines detail on them. You're also going to have 4 lengths of rope. These will be 36 inches. And you're going to have 4 stabilizer pieces. Not in your kit, but what you'll also need is some fabric glue to help glue the front and the back together with the stabilizer. The fabric glue I use is Fabric Tack by Beacon. It just happens to be my favorite type of fabric glue. It holds really well, dries quickly. It works really well with the cork. You'll also want to have, of course, a sewing machine. You do not need a heavy-duty sewing machine, but I would suggest using a heavier needle. The needle I like is this jeans needle, which is a 16. And once you have all this in place, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is make what I like to call a coaster sandwich. We are going to take one back and turn it over so that the wrong side is facing up, and then we're going to take one of our stabilizer pieces. Now your stabilizer pieces have this little notch cut into the top of them. You want the flat side of the notch to be facing your left hand side. Okay, so it's going to go on our pumpkin back just like this. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. Okay, we're going to go in just like this so that the notch is going to be coming in at an angle toward the left. So let's get our glue, turn our stabilizer over, go ahead and put some glue on the back of this stabilizer. It doesn't have to be a super large amount. You're going to be sewing everything together. This is just going to kind of help hold things in place so nothing shifts while you are working. Again, let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see where it's going on. Right, the stabilizer is going to be a little bit smaller than your pumpkin back. So go ahead and kind of center it as best you can with this notch at the top going diagonal to the left, and give that a good press down. Now go ahead and get some glue on the front side of this. And get your pumpkin front. And press that in. You want to make sure your front and your back are nice and aligned. All the edges are lined up where they're supposed to be. Okay. You're going to have a little bit of space here, and that's where the rope is going to sit once you start sewing. Okay? And that notch is still going to be at the top. Now, we're going to do this for all 4 of our pumpkins. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and go ahead and glue all 4 pumpkins together. Now that you have all 4 pumpkin sandwiches made, it's time to move on to the fun stuff and to start sewing. You're going to take 1 length of your rope and 1 of your pumpkins, and we're going to move over to the sewing machine. Okay, so I have my sewing machine set on my zigzag stitch. I have the stitch width at about 5. You want it to be right around 5. If you can't get to 5, as far to 5 as you can. And then my stitch length, I have set at 2 because I want the stitches, the zigzags, fairly close together to help stabilize everything. The first thing we're going to do is to take the one end of our rope, and we're going to place it inside where the notch is. Okay, so it's going to slide in and sit right where that notch is. Okay, and we're going to get that started. You're going to want to line the center of your zigzag. So I have the center of my foot here. You want that center to be right in line between the coaster and the rope. So you're going to go back and forth. Then go ahead and back stitch to get that nice and set. Now, hold one finger against the rope so it curves around the coaster, and just follow the curve of the coaster, making sure the center of your foot just stays right on the edge of the coaster between the coaster and the rope. When you get to the bottom, there's going to be just a little indentation in the shape of the cork. So just kind of press that rope up in there so it's nice and tight. And continue sewing around. Now once you come up to the top, I like to go ahead and trim those threads. You're going to do the same thing you kind of did at the bottom. You want to press the rope tight against the coaster. You can use a stiletto. I just use my little scissors here and kind of hold that in place so you don't get a gap. Alright, as you get to the end of the rope, go ahead and back stitch just a little bit to make sure everything's nice and tight right there. And now you're going to be coming and sewing rope on rope. See if I can zoom in a little bit here for you. Okay, so now your center is going to be following the ditch between the ropes. Continue holding the rope against the side and just following around the coaster. Keeping the ditch between the rope nice and centered. Okay. Now we've gotten back toward the top of your coaster, your pumpkin again. Now we're going to make the stem. Okay, so about an inch before you get to where you started, I want you to stop, make sure your needle is down, and I want you to bend your rope up at a 90-degree angle. So that is going to be pressing down into this top portion of your pumpkin. There we go, sorry. Okay. Again, if you want to use a stiletto, I just use my scissors. Okay, and I hold that down. Right. Once you have your needle to where you've made your bend, you're going to bend your stem back down. This is about an inch of a stem. Okay, you can make it a little shorter, a little longer. Doesn't matter too much, but I like to get just about an inch of the rope as a stem. Again, you're going to want to take your scissors and you're going to want to really press this corner in so it meets up against the other stem. And you're going to sew straight across. Don't sew your stiletto or your scissors because we don't want that needle hitting metal. Go a couple stitches past that second bend and back stitch. Okay. Now we're going to forward stitch again. I'm going to go ahead and press my point of my scissors into that corner of the stem to get it nice and tight. We'll just forward stitch again over. I'm going to move over to this one, press that stem in tight. I'm going to back stitch one more time and forward stitch one more time. Right. Now we're going to stop here. Trim off the thread. Okay, so now you have this stem. We're not going to leave it in a loop. We're going to come close it up in just a minute. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie off our end by making the leaf of the pumpkin. So what I want you to do, I want you to take the last bit of your rope and loop it and figure out how big of leaf you want here on the side. Okay, and then you're going to take your scissors and you're just going to snip it. I like to snip mine in a little bit of a diagonal. It helps it sit a little better. Okay, just a little bit of a diagonal, and you're just going to push that in to where your stitches ended earlier. Okay, just like that. Now we're going to go back under the sewing foot, line up your center of your foot. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew down this part to this part. Okay. You don't want to go too far, only maybe about here, because you want your leaf to be able to move. So we're going to go ahead and forward stitch this down. Then we're going to back stitch. Now we're going to come up and we're going to fold this upper portion of the rope. I like to use the side of my scissors to kind of get a nice tight fit. Again, only go 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'll do this a couple times. Forward stitch and back stitch to make sure I got that end in there nice and secure. Now, you can either take this up off the sewing machine and start again, or you can back stitch to your stem. Lift your foot up, turn your coaster. So now you're going to be stitching up the stem. This is another place where you're going to want to get a stiletto or some scissors in there to get a nice, so you can pinch your stem together. going to go up your stem and back stitch back down your stem, back up and back down. Trim off your extra threads. So here we go. Here is our pumpkin. We have our nice pumpkin shape with our stem and our leaf and a loose thread on there. There we go. You're going to do the same thing with the other three. You're going to start here in the center with the notch. Sew around once, sew around twice, make your stem, make your leaf, then come back and sew your stem. Let me know what you think.